Wow, thank you so much. So when people ask me, like, why are you spending a year of your life, because I'm back out here in Arizona to finish writing my SOAS book, why on earth would one man spend an entire year researching and talking just about the psoas? Isn't there more to the body than just the psoas? Well, of course, yes, there is. However, one is, I'm kind of crazy, right? You know, it's like only crazy people do stuff like that, right? However, I'm very passionate, as Lindsay said, about posture and movement. I'm very passionate about this topic right here, corrective exercise. How many of you guys currently do corrective exercise? Raise your hand, please. Oh, awesome, fantastic. How many of you know a whole lot about corrective exercise? Raise your hand. Ooh, there's some very honest people there. Yeah. So, my background, real quickly, is I started out as a chiropractic physician. Actually, I was a personal trainer through chiropractic school. When I first got out of chiropractic college 18 years ago, which is hard to believe, so I was about 10 at the time. So, whoa. Whoa. No, seriously. So 18 years ago, I owed $150,000. My first job in Chicago, Illinois, I was making $30,000. So if you do the math, you're like, yeah, you're not going to pay that loan off very quickly, or you're not going to eat for a long time. So I went back to personal training. So I started personal training at the East Bank Club in Chicago, Illinois. It's the #1 money-making club in the country. I think they make $54 million a year. I wanted to work. I'm a 28-year-old guy, single guy, new to the city, feeling like I'm a stud, right? So who do you think I wanted to work with? You know, Oprah trained there, Michael Jordan trained there, you know, a lot of the NBA stars from the Bulls and the Blackhawks hockey players trained there. I wanted to train those individuals. Guess who they sent me, though? They sent me the people. Oh, yeah, Linda, you got a little back pain. Go work with Evan. He's a chiropractor. Oh, you got knee problems. Oh, Evan's the man for you. So I started working with these individuals that had pain, and I didn't know how to work with them. 10 years of college, 3.5 years of chiropractic college, all my years of training didn't train me to work with this population. So I went to conferences just like this. Well, not just like this one, because there wasn't anything like this back then. So I went to all these big conferences to learn what are the best people doing. So I took away some of the information from some of these best people. And then went back with my clients and I tried to use it and realized a lot of it wasn't working. And even it wasn't working on me because I started having chronic shoulder problems from all the stuff that I was learning how to do. And then I sat back one day and I started looking at the people that I was watching on stage, and guess what population of people they mostly were working with? Athletes, high-functioning individuals. I wasn't working with those individuals. It doesn't mean that they don't want to get to a very high level, but they're not coming to us oftentimes at a very high level. So this whole journey for the last 16 to 18 years my wife and I have been on is to figure out or to discover some of the best strategies that individuals that are working with and doing the research, what are they doing with their clients, the real world clients, the baby boomers and seniors, the individuals that we work with, all of us work with, what are they doing to make dramatic changes in their clients' lives? And that's what I want to share with you today, and that's why this topic of corrective exercise is so important. So you guys ready to go? Yes. Awesome. Put your right hand up. One of the most important things about these conferences is not about the information you learn here, it's about empowering yourselves and each other, because every single day you're in your practice or your clinic or your gym empowering individuals. This is your opportunity to be empowered. I want you to turn to somebody, give them a real high five and say, I'm here for you. Real high five. That was good. That was real good. All right, here we go. There are 3 primary goals of this session. I want you to, number 1, understand what corrective exercise is and also what it's not. So we're going to talk about the myths of corrective exercise. Number 2, I want you to understand the methods of program design. How do you incorporate corrective exercise into the routines you're already doing so you don't forget about all the great stuff you're already doing, but how do you incorporate this into your current programs? Number 3, how do you master integration of corrective exercise so you can be the solution that your clients need, want, and most importantly, will seek out. Because do we have a healthcare crisis in this country? Yes or no? Yes. Who's the solution to that healthcare crisis? Yes. Oh, that was awesome. I've lectured all over the world, and nobody ever comes back that quickly and says, you are. Because when people come and call at my office and say, hey, I want to see Dr. Osar, the most important thing they have right then and there is pain. They want to get out of pain. But do people usually come to you because of pain? Is that usually their driving factor? No. They come to you because they want longevity. They want a better lifestyle. They want to be able to pick up their grandchildren or hike that mountain and just feel better. So you guys are the solution. And what profession talks the most about nutrition, talks the most about posture movement, and talks the most about lifestyle? You guys do. So that's why you guys are the solution, okay? Here we go. What the heck is this thing we call corrective exercise? It is not meant to be a correction or a fix. We're not trying to fix anybody or correct them. It is not a bunch of random remedial exercises. And it's not a diagnosis or treatment protocol. So what is corrective exercise? Corrective exercise is an approach to addressing chronic posture and movement habits. And why is this word right here, habits, so important? Because if you don't change your habits, if you don't address your habits, you end up growing just like that. That's why your mom said, don't pick your nose, because you knew it was a bad habit. Don't conquer your bad habits, or they will conquer you. So I want to demonstrate, have a little exercise here. I want you guys to stand up for me, please. Pop your shoes off. I asked for the early morning session, so that way feet are clean and fresh. Because there's a very tight room, it's a little warm in here. Okay, now what I want you to do is just put your feet together at a comfortable distance. Closer together, but at a comfortable distance. Feel your feet on the floor. Are both feet on the floor equally? Is the pressure equal between both feet? How many people say, no, it's not? Yeah, most of us, or half of us, okay? Now, what I want you to do is just simply lift one knee up towards your chest. Bring it back down. Other side up. Bring it back down. Now, this time when you do it, same thing again. Tell me, was one side more challenging to stand on? Do it again. One side up. Other side up. Was one side a little more challenging? Did you have to sway a little bit more? Did you have to grip the floor maybe a little bit more? Did you roll out to the side of your foot? How many people felt that? Yeah, so you already have a habit for balance, yes? Yes. If you were going to fall as you age, what side do you think you're going to possibly fall on more likely? Yeah, the side that you're less stable on. So already you have a habit that may challenge your balance. All our older clients have years and years of habits. Does that make sense? What we want to do with corrective exercise is address those chronic habits. That's the goal of corrective exercise. Not to make them perfect, but help them be a little more balanced and have a better strategy. Thank you so much. Have a seat, please. So here's our biggest challenge. People don't come and see us because they have injuries. However, people that come and see you frequently have injuries because of these chronic habits. So what are some of the most common habits? What do you think about that gentleman's sitting posture? Is that real optimal? Nope. How about that guy's bending posture? Is that a real optimal bending posture? Nope. How about that lady's lifting posture? Is that a great way to lift her child? No. Now, let me ask you a question. Is it because that guy's father had bad back that he has a bad back, the guy sitting on the far left? No. How about the guy bending in the middle? Is it because his mother had a bad back? Does he have a bad back because of that? Nope. How about that woman right there? Nope. So is it genetics? Is it heredity? Remember that slide that Mark put up? I hope you guys noticed that one slide he put up. There's a very important slide that was in his presentation. It said 25% of disease is what? Genetics, yes. The other 75 is what? Lifestyle. So it's not because your mother had bad knees or your father had bad knees. It's because of our habits. We all have genetics, sure. Some of us have better joints, more stiff joints, better cartilage, better ability to repair our cartilage. But we all have habits that dictate what we do through life. So look at my client right there. What do you see with her left knee there? It's internally rotated. Is it because her mom had an internally rotated hip there? Probably not. So you say, okay, so what? Let's see what happens when she loads, because this client right there has knee pain. What do you see when she loads up onto one leg? More of the same, yes? So she's a runner. What do you think happens when she runs now? More of the same. And how many times is your body weight coming down on your knee every single time or every single step you take when you run? 3 to 7 times. So she's got a non-optimal standing posture, non-optimal loading posture, and a non-optimal movement posture. So again, is it our genetics or is it our chronic habits? Because if we think it's our genetics or heredity, we can't change that, can we? Not yet. I mean, people are working on that, right? But not yet. But if we understand that it's posture and movement habits, who's in the best position? Who's in the best position? Awesome. Thank you so much. Here we go. Effective chronic habits. When you have optimal alignment, what we call joint centration. And centration is just a fancy word that means alignment and control. When you have alignment and control, you can load your knee up any way you want, and it will be healthy and safe. However, when you start loading your knee like that client right there, sooner or later you're going to get wear and tear, and that's that condition we call degenerative joint disease. Why do doctors say it's genetics? Because I hear this from my patients all the time. Oh, it's just old age. It's just your heredity. Why do they say that? Why do medical doctors say that so frequently? And even chiropractors say it. Because they don't understand that process right there. Does that make sense? Cool. So here's some other habits that we adopt through our lifetime. Non-optimal postural habits. Lift your chest up and squeeze your shoulder blades down and back. How many of you use that cue right there? Yeah, we all do, right? We all learn that cue, every single one of us. But what happens to your low back right there when you do that? Can you see her low back? Yeah, hyperextension at her thoracolumbar junction. Now, that's not even the worst thing about that posture. Sitting in your chairs right now, sit at the edge of your chair, scooch forward, lift your chest up, squeeze your shoulder blades down and back. Give me a deep breath in now. Where does that breath have to go? Has to go to your chest or your abdomen. Where can it not go? Into your back and sides. Your breath has to go into your back and sides to stabilize your low back. We spent almost an entire day talking about that concept on Thursday, that's how you stabilize your core. That posture will not allow you to stabilize your core optimally. Here's another one. What's she doing right there? Squeezing her abs in and tilting her pelvis back. So she's using the cue, pull your abs in and squeeze your glutes. Will that change your posture and movement strategy? Absolutely. Stand up for me, please. I want to make sure you guys don't fall asleep today. Put your hands on your low back here, please. Just feel your low back, the spine in your low back. Pull your abs in, squeeze your glutes. Some of you are already there. Okay, what did you feel happen to your low back when you did that? Relax them, let them go now. Keep your hand there, keep your hand there. Feel it, squeeze your abs, squeeze your glutes. What did you feel happen to your low back? It flattens out, yes? Is that a good thing for your low back? What's the easiest way to cause a disc problem in your low back? Is to flatten out your lumbar curvature. And these cues will directly contribute to those issues. So we also need to think about what we're telling our clients and the cues we're using. You can have a seat again. So, how about hips? On the left, your left, is an optimal looking glute complex. On the right is glutes over-clenched. Why would somebody have glutes that are over-clenched like that? That's a patient of mine that has a labral tear in his hip. That's what he looked like on the right. The right is his first picture. Why would he clench his glutes like that? To stabilize. And also why? Because somebody taught him that habit. Yes? My wife at 5 years of age, actually when I met her, I didn't meet her at 5 years of age. That'd be kind of cool. When I met her at 24, she had the flattest thoracic spine I'd ever seen, the thinnest rib cage front to back that I'd ever seen. And once I got to know her and started to question her a little bit about it, she says she remembers at 5 years of age, what did her mother tell her to do with her posture? Stand up straight, squeeze your butt in, pull your abs in. Here she was, 24, 19 years later. She's got the same exact posture that she trained into her body. And she had migraines from 5 years of age until she met me, until we changed her postural habits. So that's why it's so important to understand the impact that habits have on your life and your clients' lives. So that's what your glutes should look like, and that's what a lot of our clients' glutes look like. So write this down if you are taking notes. For some of our clients, especially as they get older, it's just as important to teach them where to let go as it is to teach them where to contract. I'll say that again. For some of our clients, even a lot of the majority of our older clients, it's just as important to teach them, and oftentimes more important, to teach them where to let go as it is to teach them where to activate. Because they've gripped up so much throughout their lives because of what? What's the most common cause of chronic tightness? Stress. Who said that? That was awesome. Brilliant. Dude, you're the man. What's the second most common cause of chronic tightness? Overuse, compensation. Yeah, compensation and overuse. Because think about this concept. Now, if you're from Arizona, you don't understand the concept of ice, right? Chicago, yeah, we do. But think about walking on a slippery tile floor in the grocery store. Would you walk like this? You would never walk like that, right? Would you walk like this on a slippery surface, or would you walk more like this? More guarded, more flexed, more adducted, more stable. You're trying to make yourself more stable. Yeah, and who else walks a lot like this? Our older clients. The strategy their clients are using is to make them more stable. These flexed, guarded postures are their nervous system's reaction to create more stability. So to create a better strategy, we have to get them out of these chronic gripping patterns. So, because here's what happens. Here's a professional athlete. And again, we're not talking about athletes, but I just wanted to show you. This guy has low back pain. Can you see why he's got low back pain? Where is he getting most of his motion from in a forward bend? Lumbar spine, because he doesn't have enough what? Anterior pelvic tilt or hip motion. Exactly. Where's this gentleman getting most of his motion from? He's trying to stretch his hamstrings. Where does most of that motion come from? Low back and or shoulders, even upper back. You cannot stretch your low back or stretch your hamstrings and compromise your low back. Otherwise, you keep driving and perpetuating low back dysfunction. Do not stretch the low back or the neck. They don't like that being stretched out. So make sure when you're doing hamstring or shoulder stretches that you keep a more neutral alignment of your neck and or low back, because otherwise the more you stretch the low back, the more it keeps driving dysfunction, and your body's trying to protect that dysfunction. It doesn't like the nervous system being overly stretched out. So again, here's my client who is overly gripping through her abs and her low back. Oops, sorry about that. And you see right there, she's over gripping the abs and glutes, and that drives the femoral head forward in the acetabulum. I want you guys to experience this. Stand up again, please. Place your hands behind your greater trochanter. So fingers behind your greater trochanter, thumbs in front of your hip joint. So your hip joint is sitting right about here in your groin here. Got it? So what I want you to do is squeeze your glutes and tell me what happens to that bone underneath your fingers. It moves forward. How many of you guys felt that bone move forward? Yeah, most of us. If you didn't feel it move forward, that's good, I think. It either means your hip is already forward, so you didn't feel it move any further forward, or you had a good strategy. But if you feel it move forward, here's what's happening. Take your hand like this. Here's your hip socket or your acetabulum. Here's your hip bone or your femoral head. Your hip femoral head, the ball, should be centered in the socket. When you overgrip your glutes because you've been training the glutes so much, you drive that femoral head forward in the acetabulum. Is that a good thing? No, because what happens when you continually grind that hip because it's too far forward? You get tears and irritation. How many of you have chronic hip problems? Tightness. 2, 3 people, come on. How many of you have low back issues, chronic low back issues? Yeah, okay. So thank you. Have a seat now. So that position is so important to maintain more optimally, because here's what happens. First, you get anterior femoral glide syndrome. All that means is your femoral head has shifted forward in your acetabulum. The next thing that happens over time is you get this condition called FAI, femoroacetabular impingement. You start creating impingement, especially when you bring the hip into flexion, adduction, internal rotation, just like I'm doing there. And those are the clients. How many of you guys stretch your clients and like, ooh, I feel a little pinching in my hip? Yeah. Or they feel clunking. How many of you got your clients feel clunking as they bring their leg back down? That's the same issue going on right there. If you keep that up, then you get your tears, labral tears and cartilage degeneration, because you keep grinding the cartilage and that labrum. I got to see 4 hip surgeries. 2 of the surgeries were on 14-year-old girls. They already have labral tears, cartilage degeneration, and bone spurs. How is it possible that 14 and 15-year-old girls already are showing degenerative changes? What do you think they're learning today that most of us have learned throughout the course of our life? To overly squeeze what? Abdominals and glutes. Okay? And it's already at 14 years of age creating degenerative changes. We have to change these habits. Otherwise, if this continues, here's what happens. This is my client's hip. You see the right hip there? There's almost no joint space in that right hip. Time magnifies all errors in stabilization and movement. That's my 60-year-old client. She had a C-section at 21 years of age. How does a C-section relate to what happens to her hip right there at 60 years of age? That was a long time ago. That was almost 40 years, 39 years ago. How does that relate to her hip replacement that she needed at 60 years of age? She over-tightened, not the psoas, but that's a good call. She over-tightened her abs. She told me, she remembers, as we talked about this, she's like, oh yeah, I remember my abs were sort of hanging out after my C-section. So what do you do if your abs are hanging out and weak? You do what? You pull them in. And we saw what happens when you pull in here and squeeze your glutes. It drives the femoral head forward, and that's the result after 39 years of grinding your hip. So is it because her mother had a bad hip, or because her mother was a good woman and maybe had non-optimal posture and movement? She's a good woman and has what? Non-optimal posture and movement habits. That's why we need corrective exercise, to help change these chronic strategies. Because the most important thing we can do with our clients is just give them a little bit of change. So take your finger like this. Pull it back like that till it hurts. Not hurts bad. Don't pull your finger off, because I know you guys like to do things really, really intensely. Just so it's a little bit uncomfortable. Now, bend it just enough so it doesn't hurt. Did you have to fix your finger all the way back up straight? No, you just had to move it just a little bit. With our senior and old aging population, you don't need to take their finger all the way back here to make a dramatic difference. You just need to move them in the right direction. That's how effective you can be, by just changing small little things. And that's why we pay attention to the small little things. I love the quote by Dyson. You know, Dyson vacuum cleaner? Love that vacuum cleaner. I love to see things come up in my vacuum cleaner when I'm vacuuming. But I love the quote by Dyson, the guy that created the vacuum cleaner. He's like, we look at the things that other people don't. And that's what corrective exercise is all about. Looking at those little things that other people overlook. Okay? So now we know what corrective exercise is. Let's talk about some of the myths. So when you see that little kid's face, you know that there's something coming up that's not so true. I love that face, right? Just get clients moving. Stop focusing on corrective exercise and trying to achieve perfection. I hear this all the time now. There's a lot of critics of corrective exercise. So let me ask you something about perfection. Your airplane takes off from California to New York City. The nose of the plane is only 1 degree off. You can't even perceive that. Are you okay with a plane going from California to New York being 1 degree off? Because here's what happens. In the beginning, 1 degree doesn't matter that much. But what happens by the time you get to your destination? You are 150 miles from your destination. 1 degree off. Let me ask you another question. Your club only 1 degree off from 10 feet away. You're straight on your green away from your hole, your golf hole, the cup. Yes, the cup. What happens 100% of the time? You can tell I'm not a golfer. What happens 100% of the time? 1 degree off. You're like, you can't even perceive 1 degree. Maybe a professional golfer can. What happens 100% of the time? You miss the putt. So is close good enough? No. And I love this quote. Are we after perfection? I love this quote by Vince Lombardi, the head coach of the Green Bay Packers back in the day. He said, gentlemen, we're going to be relentlessly pursue perfection, knowing full well we cannot achieve it because nothing is perfect. But we're going to be relentless because in the process, we will catch excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we want to do, is help our clients catch excellence. That's what corrective exercise is all about to us. Myth number 2, your client doesn't need to know anatomy, biomechanics, you just need to focus them on training. How many of you guys have heard that? Just me? Maybe 2 people? Few people, yeah. We hear that all the time now. So let me ask you something. A race car driver, does a race car driver need to know every single thing about his car, how every single thing works? Maybe not so much, but possibly. It'd probably be better if he did. He doesn't, but who does need to know? His team, his pit crew needs to know how every single screw, bolt, axle, all this other car stuff I don't know anything about, how all that stuff works. We are our client's pit crew team. We need to understand how the body works and help our clients get to a better strategy so they can optimize their function. Last one, corrective exercise inhibits an individual from getting stronger. And I hear this is probably the biggest critique on corrective exercise. What makes somebody really strong? Just think about it in your heads. What makes somebody strong? Just think about it. Let me show you a picture. All of you in here are stronger than those women right there. All of you could out squat, out kettlebell lift, out lunge, out push up. How many of you want to take that challenge on right there? So you're all stronger than them, yes? Yes? Yes. By measures that we use. But how many of you can do that right there? Probably none of us without crushing our neck very quickly. So how do they do that? How do they lift these massive loads day after day? Because that is the most efficient way to carry large loads for long periods of time. How do they do that? There's 3 things they do very, very well. What are they? They know how to do what? Align. They know how to get their spine completely aligned in the right position so they get that load straight down through their spine. What else do they know how to do very well? They know how to breathe very well to stabilize that thoracopelvic cylinder, the core. They know how to create internal pressure to stabilize this so that load on top of their head doesn't crush them. And they do one more thing very well. Align, breathe, and they also control. They know how to control their muscles to control that alignment and sway and move and not overload their joints. So they align, breathe, and control. So these are the principles that dictate how we work with our clients. The principles of the integrative movement system. This is what we want to do with our clients. Help them align, breathe, and control so that they can move closer to their excellent place and to give them back, as Lindsay said, hope. Give them hope for living better and productive lives as they get older. So here, corrective exercise should enhance and never detract from your client getting stronger. Corrective exercise removes the barriers from improving performance and strength. And finally, do the right things and avoid doing the wrong things, okay? And now we'll go into how do you use corrective exercise. Well, one more thing. Key point about corrective exercise, if an individual compromises their alignment, breathing, and or control during their training, they are setting themselves up to compensate and either develop or perpetuate non-optimal posture and movement habits. Why do people get tight as a result of working out? Why do people feel like they need to stretch all the time? Because they've affected what? Their alignment, their breathing, or their control. So let me ask you something. If I'm doing weights in the gym and I'm doing an overhead press, I can't lift up because my suit jacket will not let me get there. I saw this waiter one time, and I'm like, dude, that suit is awesome. I'm like, but it's all tight, and he's all slim, he's all fit. And I'm like, but how do you raise your arms? He's like, oh, I can't. I'm like, oh. So I can't raise my arms here. So I'm like, I want a nice suit. So just say I can raise my arms here. Here we go. So if I'm using full range of motion in an overhead press, I can't get up there, but just pretend I'm overhead pressing. I have full range of motion. And my alignment is straight on, is right on. My breathing is right on. My muscular control is right on. Should that change my range of motion and make me have to stretch afterwards? If I'm using full range of motion, optimal breathing, and optimal control, should that affect my range of motion and or create tightness? No. But why does that exercise cause people problems? Because they affect what? One of those 3 things. Because they use weight that's too heavy, and what do they do to get it up? They compromise their low back to get it up. Will that make your low back tight? Yes? Yes. Or they'll compromise their breathing and go there. Will that compromise their tightness or create tightness? Absolutely. So if you maintain alignment, breathing, and control, you won't have to do as much stretching with your clients. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Yes. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how do you get corrective exercise into your program design. So we've talked about the principles, alignment, breathing, control, and now let's talk about being purposeful with your exercise, okay? So first we're going to look at our clients, then we're going to organize our exercises, and then determine rewards and risks. So your clients, so these are most of our clients that come to us. New clients, clients with multiple issues. Don't most of our clients as they age have multiple issues? Surgeries, traumas, medications, joint replacements, so they have multiple issues, chronic tightness and discomfort, but they've been cleared to exercise. What we want to do is move them down here. Regular clients, clients that have been progressing through a strategic, corrective, and training program. And then finally, you may have some clients that are rock stars, no major issues, and specific functional goals. We're going to focus on these clients right at the top here because that's where most of our clients will fit in initially. So here's our primary goals here. Number one is improve awareness and education. Your exercises should always improve your clients' awareness of their current postural and movement habits and also educate them on more optimal posture and movement habits. Number two, address primary drivers. And drivers is what's driving that client's dysfunction. One way to start to think about this is where would you start? Start looking at, number one, their alignment. Number two, their breathing. And number three, their control of their posture and movement. That's where we start all our assessments with. Incorporate the IMS principles into the fundamental movement patterns. We want to teach them how to squat with proper alignment, how to lunge with proper alignment, how to bend with proper alignment, and breathing and control. We always keep in mind our clients' goals. Everything we do here, we heard it all weekend so far, everything you do here has to always drive back to your client's goals. Why does breathing affect your client's ability to bend over? Why does control help your client hike up a mountain more effectively? So always turn your strategy back into their goals. Make sure you're always educating them on why you're doing these concepts and why you're using these exercise patterns. Your assessment, you're interested in your client's strategy for posture and movement. That's what assessment should be telling you. What strategy is your client using for posture and movement? We saw my client earlier. She had the turned in knee, so she had non-optimal posture in standing. And then when she stood on one leg, she had even a worse strategy for standing on one leg. And when she was running, she used that same strategy. So if you're taking notes, write this down. When your client's posture and movement match, when you see a non-optimal posture and it matches what they do with their movement, that's when you want to address it. So when posture and movement are the same, you want to address that. That's probably an area that you want to start to address. When your posture and movement strategies are not the same, then don't worry about addressing them. Let me give you an example. Say your client is standing with valgus knees. This doesn't usually happen, but when they squat beautifully. They bring their feet and knees, hips in alignment. Then I don't really worry about this so much. I still want to change it, but I'm not over concerned if they can easily get themselves out of it. But if they're like this, they're standing like this, they usually do what? They usually squat like this, and they lunge like this, and they walk upstairs like that, and they bridge like that. So that's usually when you want to address it. Does that make sense? So that way you're not chasing all the things you see in your client. So that's what your assessment is going to do, is identify their primary needs. If posture and movement demonstrate the same findings, that's likely an area of focus. And then there's a difference between posture and movement, improved alignment and or control. Don't worry so much about it, okay? So here we go. Your client has their specific needs. So that's down here in the corner here. Here's their needs there, and here's where they want to get to. So the IMS, Integrative Movement System, Corrective Exercise Strategy, is we want to first identify. Whoa, no words there. Oops. Well, there's supposed to be words in there. So the words are, we release where they're holding their tension. Release any way you want to release. Myofascial release, manual therapy, trigger point tools. Release where they're holding myofascial tension. And not all myofascial tension, the most important areas that are pertinent to your client. Number 2, release, then activate. We want to activate the right muscles to teach them how to get into better alignment, better breathing, better control. So we release, activate, and then we integrate this into their fundamental movement patterns. And that's what moves them closer to their functional goals. So release, activate, and integrate, and then move them towards their fundamental movement patterns to their functional goals. So second thing we want to do is categorize all your corrective exercises. So make a list. When you go home today, or this weekend, not today, you go home and rest today, make a list of all the things that you do from a corrective standpoint. This is just a sample list of the exercises we use. We have videos, we'll talk about that at the end. We have all these exercises somewhere on our website. And if you want to copy this presentation, email Janice. Yeah, don't email me, because you'll never. Email Janice. I'll give you her email at the end. And you guys will have a list of this, okay? So here's all our integrative exercises. So here's how we break it up. We have squats, deadlifts, all the patterns where we're bending the hips and the knees. Squats, lunges, steps, those are one category. Next category is all our hip-dominant patterns, all our bending, reaches, bridges, stiff-legged deadlifts. That's where just the hips are bending and the knees stay relatively stationary. So if you're thinking about or working with clients that have knee problems, put a star next to those patterns right there. These are the patterns you want to do with your knee clients, your knee clients, because they're not bending their knees. So a hip hinge is a very effective pattern because you're not loading the knees up. A bridge pattern is a great pattern because you're not loading the knees up. And Robin will tell you all about a whole way to use cycling for knee problems as well. So we also have our core patterns, rotation and anti-rotation, pushing and pulling, and of course, balance and gait. Okay? So now we have all our categories, our exercises categorized. Now, here's the important thing. Determine the rewards and risks of your exercises. Every exercise has a reward and a risk. There's not good and bad exercises. I'll take that back. There's a bad exercise. But most exercises are there's either a high reward and low risk, or there's a high reward and a high risk. So we'll talk about that. So here's your rewards. You want all exercises, the ones that you want to use are the ones that respect optimal alignment, breathing, and control. I asked the group on Thursday in our core class, what's the best core exercise? So I'll ask the rest of you guys. You guys don't answer that. What's the best core exercise? Just in your head, think about it. What's the best core exercise? Just yell something out. Breathing. Ooh, that's good. Who said breathing? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, awesome. What else? The one they aren't doing. Yeah, good. The best core exercise is the same thing as the best hip exercise, is the same thing as the best shoulder exercise. It's the exercise that best enables your client to do what, do you think? Align, breathe, and control. If your exercise compromises their alignment, their breathing, and their control, you are setting them up for dysfunction or perpetuating dysfunction. Does that make sense? So any exercise can be a perfect exercise for your client. So it doesn't matter what you do. So client maintains ABCs, and the client maintains and improves range of motion, muscle strength, posture, anything like that. Your client should never walk out of your session like, if they came in like this, they should never walk out like this. They should walk out taller, more range of motion, feeling better. When I work out by myself and my ego gets ahead of me, I walk out, I'm like, yeah, that was an awesome workout. But when I work out with my wife, and she's there watching my alignment, my breathing, and she takes me, she's like, all right, put the 50 pounds down, grab the 40s. Nope, put the 40s down, grab the 30s. Nope, put them down, grab the 25s. Okay, that's okay. And then I'll do my exercise. I'll walk out. I'm like, oh yeah, my neck feels good, feel tall, no problems. Because she taught me, or she corrected me in making sure I had my alignment, my breathing, and my control. Remember, your clients get tight because they're trying to stabilize. When you align, breathe, and control, you give them back their ability to gain range of motion. Here's your risks. Anything that doesn't respect alignment, breathing, or control, client cannot maintain alignment, breathing, or control, or they have a high inherent possibility for negatively affecting your client's current situation. So let me give you 3 examples of these exercises. And I'll send you the presentation, don't worry about it. So you want lots of these exercises and not so many of these. So here we go, single leg bridge. Reward is moderately challenging to perform, lots of glute activation. That's a high reward exercise for us. We love that exercise. There's also a risk of it, for sure. There's a risk. You can easily perform it incorrectly. You can drive that femoral head forward and go too much into a posterior tilt because you're trying to overdrive and overuse the glutes. But it's a moderate to low risk for us, so we like this exercise. So that's, yeah, thumbs up. Awesome. Here we go, hip thrusters. Another glute exercise. How many of you guys do those exercises? A few of you. Reward, it's easy to perform. Lots of glute activation. The problem with how most people do them, not saying you guys do this way, but the most people that I see do this is they're using way too much weight and they're driving the pelvis way too far forward. And they're driving that pelvis into posterior pelvic tilt and driving their femoral heads forward. It looks like they're doing something naughty with that bar. So to us, that's a low reward exercise. The risk is easy to perform it incorrectly and with too much weight. It drives the femoral head forward and posterior pelvic tilt. That's a high risk exercise for us, so we don't put it in our program. But if they use good form, you can put it in your program. So don't go on the post tonight and say, Evan said that hip thrusters suck and don't ever do them, and anybody's stupid that does it. No. If people have good alignment and control, absolutely you can do hip thrusters. So here's deadlift pattern or a hip bending pattern. Reward, it's moderate to challenging to perform. Lots of glute and posterior chain activity. We like this exercise. All my clients, every single client, even my clients that have post-spinal surgery, fusion surgery, they will do some kind of hip hinging pattern because they have to get to the floor. They have to learn how to hip hinge appropriately to get down to the floor. We don't always load them like that, but they'll do some kind of hip hinging. There is a high risk of this exercise. It's easy to perform incorrectly. There's a high spinal load when you start to load it in this fashion. It is a high risk exercise if the client is not doing it properly. So here, just use your best judgment. Maybe use body weight. Just teach them how to hip hinge properly. Teach them how to control their thoracopelvic cylinder. Teach them how to breathe properly, and that becomes a very safe exercise. Don't overload them, and that's a great exercise. So now let's put this theory into practice. Here's my client, Ellis. Love this guy. He's usually much more smiley. He's just very camera shy right there. Love this guy. Ellis is 75 years of age. He only trains with me until recently in the last month, because he just had a stroke, 30 minutes a week. So now he trains twice a week for 30 minutes. So now since his stroke, he's got balance and gait issues. He's got strength issues and range of motion issues because now he's very guarded because he's afraid of falling. So I've identified his functional goals right there. I mean, he didn't really say, yeah, I need more strength and range of motion. He said, I have a fear of falling. So that's just translated, I have a fear of falling. Got it? Okay, so here's how we set up corrective exercise into his program. First, we choose 2 to 3 patterns that address his most pressing issue. So let's go back just for a second. Those are his most pressing issues right there, balance and gait, strength, and range of motion. So we want to teach him how to align, breathe, and control better. So we want to choose the exercises that drive or address the primary issue. Okay, I'll show you what we do. Then we're going to take that concept into circuits. So here's how we set up our circuits, and it's probably similar to what you guys do. Push, pull, core balance. Push, pull, and or leg. So we do one circuit there, and another circuit, and we probably repeat these a few times. So V just means vertical, H means horizontal. So horizontal pushes, vertical pulls, horizontal pulls. Got it? Very simple? Cool. Very simple? Oh, yeah, awesome. So these are designed to accomplish the client's functional goals, and we integrate these things here into the functional movement patterns. And if you're taking notes, this is the magic of corrective exercise, is being able to take what you do with corrective exercise and add it to, blend it into, integrate it into your fundamental movement patterns. Because a lot of people do corrective exercise, and they do all the perfect corrections and releases and activations, and then they get them up and moving, and then they start doing silly things like, here, do this, and then squeeze down and back when they're doing rows and things like that. So you change what you're doing from fundamental movement patterns from your corrective exercise. Take what you do from corrective exercise and blend it into what you do in your fundamental movement. That's how you have the carryover. That's how you get from addressing chronic posture habits into challenging and moving them towards that better place. So here's what his program looks like. So first, here's our corrective exercise patterns. We use happy baby position. So here's your happy baby position. I have towels underneath his head for support. Here's his supported split squat, so I'm teaching him now. Here's his supine position. We have no problem lying clients down because this is the best position if you can get your clients down to train alignment of the trunk and spine and pelvis and to teach three-dimensional breathing. But if you can't get your clients down, you just do that sitting up or standing up. Now we take this concept here and bring it into the upright position. So I give him a little bit of support. So now he can start to squat and use that same alignment we just worked on the floor. Same breathing. Now he's doing lateral band step outs because I want to teach him how to be aligned and move through the frontal plane, use his hip and glute complex, and maintain that alignment. So we're carrying over all the concepts into the upright position through the different planes of motion. So there's his corrective exercise or his functional warm-up. Now let's go into the patterns we use with him. So again, here's his primary issues. We want to improve alignment and breathing, and we want to improve how he stands on one leg. So here's the first series we do. We do horizontal cable press, pull, and here's our balance exercise. So push, pull, balance. So that's him doing his exercise, I think. Oh, now we're going to do our pull pattern. So we did our push pattern. Now we do our pull pattern. Let me back up just for a second. I have him holding a pole right there because he had a stroke that affected the strength of his left hand and the strength of his left leg. So the reason I have him holding a pole is so that he's working on his grip strength as he's pushing on the opposite side. We always want to work. We don't want this arm just dangling down here. Get this active because that will help him get longer and still maintain that proper alignment. So we put our clients in positions that allow them to be successful. And for a guy 75 years of age, it doesn't look so bad, eh? He's a guy that came in, he was like, he's this guy. But he's able, using these principles, to get himself into a better position during his exercise patterns. So now we do recline pull-up, and look at that alignment. That's pretty darn good, eh? All I'm doing is just cueing him, stay long through your spine. Cue him to be long through his spine, not lift the chest up, not squeeze down and back. Just get long, Ellis. All I want you to do is bring your head, top of your head towards the ceiling. That's pretty impressive, yes? For a guy that's a little slumpy 75-year-old guy. But he can pull himself out of it when you cue him properly. And what's cool about Ellis is he's like, when he's done, he's like, oh, I feel so great. And he looks great when he leaves. He doesn't do all the work at the end, so he comes back looking like this a lot of times. But that's okay. I'm not there to judge him. Just, hey, I do the same thing the next day. So it's all good. Okay, so the last one is the split stance, balance, and rotation. So I don't think this video will play. Oh, yeah, there it goes. So he's just standing on the balance pad. So I'm teaching him how to stay aligned and then just rotate, differentiate the trunk from the pelvis, from the hip, and maintain that hip, knee, ankle, and foot alignment while he's on the balance pad. Pretty good balance, yes? Not bad for a 75-year-old guy that just had a stroke in that left leg right there. So again, just carrying those same concepts into all our fundamental movement patterns. Pretty easy to do? Pretty simple? Can you guys do this? Can you guys do this? Do you need to be a chiropractor to do this? Do you need to be a physical therapist to do this? What do you need? I don't know what answer I was looking for. You don't need me. No, you don't need me. No, all I'm trying to stress here is you guys can do everything that I do and way more. This is just very simple programs. You guys can do all this, and we're here to help you. So this is basically his program. This is just a lot of jumble. That's basically everything I just talked about. This is what we do and how we write his programs. I'll send this to you. Don't worry about it right now. Oh, and one more thing about this. How much time do we spend with our clients? Everybody asks us this. How much time do you spend on these things? It depends. Depends how our clients are when they come to us. Some clients, they get 10 minutes of corrective exercise. Some get 30 minutes. It depends where they are when they come to see us. But don't try to progress clients so fast that you miss all the beauty and all the magic that happens up here. Do your due diligence with your clients. Get them aligned, breathing control, and then you can progress them as far as they can possibly go. Just don't try to skip this step here because you want to get down to all this fun stuff. Does that make sense? Do your due diligence. This is my wife's client, Marge, 78 years of age. She was complaining about, I have a distended abdomen. I don't like my belly sticking out. 78-year-olds also care about their abs, right? She has chronic low back pain. Do you see what? You can see why, right? This is her after 45 minutes of working with my wife. And again, nothing magical. We taught her to breathe, or she taught her to breathe, cuter, long and suspend, relax your abs from gripping. So she's not telling her to pull her abs in, but that's 45 minutes later for a 78-year-old woman with chronic low back pain. How long will that last? That's always a question. How long will that last? As long as what? She continues to do the work. Does that make sense? The success of any program is the consistency that your clients will take into the program. Okay, conclusion. We want to be very purposeful with our exercises so that we use corrective exercise and blend them into what we're doing from a fundamental movement standpoint. What were the principles we talked about? What were the ABCs? A was what? Alignment. B was what? C was what? Control. Align, breathe, and control, and then follow the proper progressions. Don't teach your client to be here if they can't control here. That's not control. That's not improving balance. Teach them to be here. Teach them to be here. Teach them to be stepping. Teach them one leg. Then teach them to be here. Then challenge their range of motion. Use the proper progressions, and then you give your clients back hope, as Lindsay was talking about. You give them that path to accomplishing their health and fitness goals. When you add corrective exercise to the functional training model that Cody and Dan came up with, and this is why we're very passionate about joining with Dan and Cody. We're very protective of our information, but we're very on board with the mission that Dan and Cody and the Functional Aging Institute have. When I sat in the back there last year, I happened to be out here, as I told you, working on my SOAS book. I sat in the back in the last row. I just happened to be out here, so I'm like, let me come and see what it's all about. I've heard about these guys, and I love the passion in the room. I love what these two guys stand for, and that's why they're really one of the first people that we've actually partnered with to create a corrective exercise program for them. This is how you give clients healthy aging for life, how you become that solution that your clients need, want, and will seek out. Be excellent. Let your clients be successful in the patterns that they can do. Empower them every single day, which you guys are already doing. Help them move towards achieving a higher place. Let them be excellent every single time they come into your sessions. I'm going to leave you with one quote from my favorite poet, the only poet I know, Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's a great poem. It's called What is Success? And the last line of his poem says, "To know that even one life has breathed easier because you have lived, that is success." We have that ability every single day to help people breathe figuratively and spiritually. I'll leave you with one more thing. I was taking care of this nun, and I went to Catholic school, so I had a whole different idea of what nuns were like. It wasn't always a good happy stories with the nuns in Catholic school. But this nun was so cool. 75 years of age. She came in with low back pain. She was, like a lot of us, she was a butt gripper. So I taught her to relax her glutes, taught her how to hip hinge. She comes in one day. She's like, "Dr. Osar, I got to show you something. Come here." I'm like, so I moved closer to her. She's like, "Here, touch my butt." I'm like, what? So I'm like, God. So she's like, no, seriously, touch my butt. She's like, "Look, I'm getting glutes." She was so excited because she's getting glutes. What was really cool about her, and I sort of forgot about this until my wife just reminded me of it the other day. She's like, "Do you remember when Sister Suzanne said when you taught her breathing actually helped her connect closer to God?" And that was so cool. I had totally forgotten about it. So just remember, every single day, we have the power to impact our clients on levels we're not even aware of. So keep doing the great work that you're doing. If we can help you, let me tell you about a resource we have. Fitness education seminars. If you want this presentation, my wife's email, let me say it real slowly. Her name is Janice, Jenice, Jenice, at fitnesseducationseminars.com. You can get a copy of this presentation, and we have on our site, Fitness Education Seminars, as Lindsay said, we have over 100 videos, probably, I don't know, more than that, lots of them. The reason why we give away so much information for free is because I started out as a personal trainer. I'm very passionate about this industry. We want to make you guys understand that you are the solution to this healthcare crisis, that clients you should have waiting lists of people to get in to see you because of the powerful message you have for your clients. I want to do a little giveaway before we go. One of the groups that we're very passionate about helping There's lots of groups that need our help. Dan and Cody will talk about their groups that they help later on. What I heard about a couple years ago, about 5 years ago, I heard that there's over 10,000 homeless vets in Chicago alone. Every single day I leave my office, there's a bridge right underneath the highway, right by our office, and there's all these homeless people down there. And I never really think about them. I always say a little peaceful thing for them as I drive by, but I don't give them much thought. But then when I heard there's 10,000 homeless vets, I have a whole different appreciation of it. So each year my wife and I raise a lot of money and donate a lot of money to Stand Down Day. It's the day before Veterans Day to help pass out coats and hats and gloves and things like that to the veterans. On May 21st, I was reading an article right before I went to bed, and I heard that 21 vets every single day in this country take their own lives. So there's an initiative by these vets, 22kill.com. 22kill.com. And what they're trying to do is do 22 million push-ups so that we bring awareness around this topic, because these men and women give their lives for our country, and they come back physically wounded and spiritually wounded and take their own lives. So we're trying to bring awareness around that. Do we have any vets in the room right now? Wow, a lot of them. Awesome. So I have a few giveaways. So if the vets would want to come up here, I'd like to give each of them a copy of my book. And if I don't have enough copies of my book, I would like to give them a copy of my DVD. So thank you guys for your service. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Appreciate your service.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your service. Cool. And I have one copy of my Functional Anatomy of the Pilates Core that I wrote. Who's a Pilates instructor in here? She got her hand up first, so here you go. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. So we actually have 6 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions?
If you have questions, come on up to the microphones for the questions, if you would.
Oh, 22kill.com to learn more about that initiative. It's started by vets to bring awareness around the 22 vets that take their own lives. 22kill.com. And then, so what I've done is I've taken on, tomorrow is actually my last day. I did 22 push-ups for 22 days and posted it on Facebook every single day. So just do your push-ups and you post it to their site and to bring awareness around that concept. So thank you guys so much for that. Are there any questions about that I can help you with? Thank you.
Can you give a quick summary of three-dimensional breathing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. My wife is, she's great. She's always that person in the back of the room. She's always like, Evan, what about three-dimensional breathing? Three-dimensional breathing is, if you think about your core comes from your top rib all the way down to the bottom of your pelvis. It's like a cylinder from top to bottom all the way around here. The diaphragm sits the bottom of your rib cage here, so it fills up this entire space through your rib cage. Three-dimensional breathing just means we're filling up the entire cylinder as you breathe, top to bottom and around. When you have three-dimensional breathing, you create the right internal pressure regulation so you have a stable core. It's just not about squeezing muscles to stabilize the core. It's just not about overextending your back to stabilize your core. Get three-dimensional breathing, and you'll start to get rid of a lot of your clients' chronic tightness, and they actually have a more stable core without needing to overly brace through their glutes or through their abs. Thank you for asking that question. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Well, you guys are deciding to come up. Am I allowed to ask a question?
Oh, absolutely.
Talk a little bit about, because I know just talking to a lot of people here, a lot of group instructors. Talk a little bit about cueing or applying these principles in the group format.
Yeah, awesome. The biggest challenge is when you have a group environment, because we work one-on-one and we just start a small group training, but it's easy when you can go around and manipulate people and move people and cue them. So here's what we're going to do. Everybody stand up for me, please. Pop your shoes off if they're on. So here's how we would take you through making sure. Now, remember, when you're in a group setting, it's not going to be perfect for every single person in there, but we're going to train to the most common things that you're going to see with your clients. Most of our clients, as you know, right, forward shoulders, they're going to be overarched through their low back and forward head position. So the first cue we give people, so stand up, put your feet about shoulder width apart. Think of a string pulling you from the back of your head long. Keep the front of your rib cage soft, because most of our older clients, even though they're kyphotic like this, they have a flared rib cage. They're kyphotic and flared because they're overusing their lumbar erectors to hold themselves up. So we want them to think about long spine here, ribs down in the front. So if you're standing from the side, you're going long in the back, down in the front. Okay? Now, put your hands on your rib cage like this. So if I'm in a group setting, here's what I have them do this. Now, I want you to send your breath into your hands. Make it, so squeeze in just a little tiny bit. Now, breathe into your hands and stay long. Stay long. Breathe out. As you breathe out, just feel like your rib cage is relaxing in the front and you're staying long in the back. One more time. Breathe into your hands and breathe out. You should also feel the breath into your thumbs. So send the breath back into your thumbs as well. And don't worry if it's not perfect for everyone. Breathe out. Now, what I want you to do, we're going into a squat now. Put your hands on your pelvis now. We want to make sure we do a hip hinge first. Stay long through your spine. First thing, I want you to send your pelvis back behind you, and your pelvis should move over top your hips. Here. And now come back up. So it's basically send your pelvis back, stay long through the back of your neck. Now come back up. One more time. Send your pelvis back, hinge your hips, stay long through your spine, come back up. So that's just a little sampling of how you would start to cue them in a group exercise setting. And that's how we cue them through all the exercise patterns, because a lunge is the same thing. So here, try this. Long spine, put your hands on your rib cage. Keep your rib cage down in the front. So long spine in the back, rib cage down in the front. Just do a small lunge forward and or back. Just keep that alignment. Keep that alignment. Now come up long. All I want you to do is think long. Step into your lunge pattern, come up long. So that way you're reinforcing that alignment all the time. So everything you did on the floor or sitting up or in stationary positions, you're taking and feeding into all your fundamental movement patterns. That's how you incorporate corrective exercise, the alignment, breathing, and control into your group exercise patterns. The most important thing around corrective exercise in groups is who must you start with first. This is the thing we teach and stress in all our workshops. Who must do this work first so that you own it in your own bodies? Yeah, you have to own it in your own body so then you can then take it and teach it to your clients. Because your clients, if you don't feel breathing and how breathing can change, a couple of people came to our course on Thursday and they're like, oh yeah, you know, that night I went to sit in my car, like that chronic low back tightness wasn't there. When you feel a difference in your own body that just these simple little tweaks can make in your own body, it's easy to sell it to your clients. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time, your energy, and attention.